Hello everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to hear more meaningful stories.
The late afternoon wind sliced through the rooftop terrace of the city's most exclusive restaurant as Rachel Morgan lifted her gaze from the glowing screen of her phone. That was when she saw her. A small figure, no older than 6, with tangled chestnut hair and a gray coat far too large for her frail frame. The coat hung like a relic, worn thin and stained with stories Rachel didn't dare imagine. The girl stopped just a few steps away, her wide eyes fixed on Rachel's half-finished plate of truffle risotto, a dish that cost more than many made in a week. Rachel had ordered it out of habit, not hunger. Ever since her tech company had skyrocketed internationally, meals had become more of a social formality than a source of pleasure. "Excuse me, ma'am." The girl's voice was barely a whisper, yet it held a desperate courage that made Rachel's hand freeze mid-scroll. She scanned the terrace for responsible adults, for someone to explain why a child was wandering alone in a district where even the adults needed platinum credit cards to breathe. The place buzzed with high-powered meetings and designer handbags, with wine investors and women planning charity galas. But no one seemed to notice the child. "Hi, sweetheart." Rachel leaned in gently, keeping her tone soft. "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" The girl hesitated, her small fingers fiddling with the hem of her oversized coat. I don't have any. Not anymore." The words hit the table like stones, and something deep inside Rachel shifted, a feeling long buried beneath boardrooms and balance sheets. Can I eat your leftovers?" The girl asked so quietly, Rachel almost missed it. "I promise I won't be any trouble. I'm just really hungry." Rachel stared at the untouched risotto, then at the child, and felt something crack wide open inside her chest. When had she last known real hunger? Not the kind you forget because you're in back-to-back meetings, but the kind that gnaws at you because there is nothing to eat. "Of course," she said, pushing the plate toward the girl. But the child didn't grab it and run. She just stood there. "Would you like to sit with me?" Rachel asked, gesturing to the seat beside her. "What's your name?" The girl inched closer, like a stray animal, unsure if kindness was a trap. She climbed into the chair, a piece of furniture likely worth more than anything she had ever touched, and Rachel got a clearer look at her face. That's when her world shattered for the second time in 5 minutes. "Lily," the girl said softly, picking up the fork with trembling hands. "My name is Lily Carter." The name hit Rachel like a gut punch. Carter. It couldn't be. Not with those eyes, that bone structure, that delicate tilt of the head when she spoke. Rachel's throat closed around the name that nearly slipped from her lips. Caroline. The fork froze halfway to Lily's mouth. She looked up, her expression a blend of suspicion and surprise. "You knew my mom?" Rachel's lips parted, but the words stalled under the weight of emotion swelling in her chest. She closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself as memories surged like a tidal wave. "Yes," she finally whispered. "I knew her. She was my best friend." The name trembled in the air, delicate and sacred. She was more than that. She was my sister in every way but blood. Lily blinked, confused, but listening intently. "We met in college," Rachel continued, her voice thick. "We shared everything. Dreams, secrets, failures. We promised to be godmothers to each other's children, promised our families would always be connected." A bitter smile ghosted across her face. But life had other plans. Rachel leaned back, eyes scanning a horizon that only she could see. After graduation, she had chased her Silicon Valley dream, while Caroline stayed behind, marrying a man Rachel never trusted, a man with cold eyes and a temper that boiled just beneath the surface. They had lost touch slowly, like water slipping through cupped hands. First, missed calls, then unanswered texts, eventually silence. "The last time I heard from her was 3 years ago," Rachel murmured. "She called in the middle of the night, from a hospital." Her voice was weak, but still full of that old warmth. She said, her voice cracked and she swallowed hard. She said, "Rachel, if anything happens to me, promise me you'll take care of Lily. She's the only good thing I've done in this world." Lily's fork clinked against the plate as her small hands trembled. "You promised?" "I did," Rachel said, her voice breaking. "I swore I would. Through tears I couldn't stop." But when she tried to visit Caroline days later, the hospital staff told her Caroline had passed. And Lily vanished into the system. Rachel searched, God, how she searched, but every legal door slammed shut in her face. Caroline's ex-husband, Edward Carter, had claimed custody, only to abandon Lily to state care. All traces of Caroline's will had mysteriously disappeared, buried under layers of forged paperwork and bureaucratic apathy. And now, by some twist of fate, cruel and divine, the little girl Rachel had failed to find was sitting across from her, asking to eat her leftovers. "Your mom was the brightest light I've ever known," Rachel said, tears brimming. "And you're the piece of her I thought I'd lost forever." Lily stopped eating, those solemn eyes boring into Rachel's soul. "Are you the Rachel she always talked about? The one who was going to build things and change the world?" The words sliced Rachel's heart open. Even after all the years, all the silence, Caroline had never stopped speaking of her, never stopped believing in her, and had passed that belief on to her daughter. Rachel reached out instinctively, but halted when she saw Lily flinch. "Where have you been all this time?" she asked, her voice barely above a breath. "In bad places," Lily replied simply, returning to her food with quiet resignation. "Places where people aren't kind to kids who don't have families." Rage and guilt surged in Rachel's throat, rage at a world that had swallowed this child whole, guilt that she had let it happen. "Lily," she said softly, "you can't stay out here on the streets. It's not safe, and you're too young." Lily straightened her shoulders, her voice small but fierce. "I know how to take care of myself. My mom taught me to be strong." Rachel smiled through the ache in her chest. "Well, your mom taught me something too. She taught me that family takes care of family." She reached for Lily's hand again, slower this time, and when Lily didn't pull away, she clasped it gently. "You're coming with me." Lily paused, fork midair. "Where?" "Home," Rachel said. "To my home. To stay with me." The promise hung between them, delicate but solid, a lifeline spun from broken vows and second chances. Lily looked skeptical. "You don't even know me. You might not like me once you do." Rachel's smile softened, her voice raw. "Lily, I made your mom a promise. It took me 3 years to find you, but now that I have, I won't let you go." The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing the breathtaking penthouse that crowned one of the tallest buildings in the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows spilled golden light across marble floors and designer furniture. But Lily didn't seem impressed. Her wide eyes scanned the space, not with awe, but calculation, measuring the distance to the door, tracing potential escape routes. Rachel watched her with a mix of heartbreak and quiet fury. No child should know how to assess a room for danger. She closed the door gently behind them. "You're safe here," she said, but it wasn't a question. Lily didn't respond. Her small shoulders stiffened as she clutched her faded backpack tighter. "Where have you been, Lily?" Rachel asked softly, sitting down on the velvet couch and leaving enough space for the girl to choose whether or not to join her. There was a long pause before Lily finally moved toward a corner armchair, Bad perching at its edge like a bird ready to take flight. "After my mom died," she began, her voice flat, like someone narrating someone else's story, "they sent me to a place they called temporary housing. Lots of kids, crying at night, fighting over food. I didn't like it there." Rachel swallowed hard, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Then I went to a family. The man was nice. The woman, not so much. She said I reminded her of someone she wanted to forget. They gave me back after 2 weeks." The words hit Rachel like a slap. Gave her back, like a defective toy, not a living, breathing child. After that, it was the Jenkins house. They looked okay at first. Big place, lots of other kids. Lily paused, a thread of emotion creeping into her voice for the first time. "But they made me clean, all day, cook, watch the little ones. If I got tired or cried, they locked me in the basement." Rachel felt bile rise in her throat. "There was a man who visited sometimes," Lily continued, her voice now trembling. "He'd look at the older girls in a way that made me want to disappear. One night, he took 2 of them. They never came back." Silence settled like fog. Rachel stood suddenly and walked to the window, hiding the tears that burned her eyes. "That's when I ran away. I was 7. The words came so simply, like running into the night with no plan. No food, and no protection was just another line in a bedtime story." "How did you survive?" Rachel asked, turning back, her voice raw. Lily reached into her backpack and carefully unwrapped a cloth bundle. Inside was a small, chipped music box. She turned the key, and a soft melody began to play, delicate as stardust. A tiny ballerina spun slowly in the center. My mom gave me this, said whenever I felt scared or alone, I should play it and remember she loved me more than anything. Rachel gasped. She knew that music box. She and Caroline had found it in a dusty thrift shop during their sophomore year of college, and Caroline had loved it fiercely ever since. Seeing it now, in Lily's hands, was like receiving a message from beyond the grave. "There's something I have to tell you," Rachel said, lowering herself to Lily's level, her heart pounding. "It's about your mother and your father." Lily's face darkened. "I don't have a father. Mom said he was a bad person, that he left us." Rachel inhaled sharply. "He didn't leave. He was forced out. His name is Edward Carter. He and your mom were married, but he hurt her, Lily. A lot. She got a restraining order, got full custody, but when she got sick, she made a will. She named me your legal guardian. She didn't want him near you, ever again." Lily stared at her, the music box still playing between them. "Then how did he get me?" "Because he hid the will." "Get," Rachel said bitterly. "And I was overseas when Caroline died. By the time I came back and searched for you, he'd already buried everything. Told the courts he couldn't care for you. You were sent into the system." Rachel stood and crossed to a bookshelf, pulling out a thick file. She laid it before Lily. "I never stopped looking. I hired investigators, lawyers, traced every lead, and finally, we found proof. He forged documents. Stole over $200,000 your mother left for your future." Lily's eyes widened. "He took my money?" "All of it. But more than that, he stole your safety, your childhood, and now that you're back, he can't be allowed to touch you ever again." As Rachel knelt in front of her, clutching her tiny hands, the intercom buzzed sharply. Her heart leapt into her throat. "Miss Morgan," the doorman's voice crackled. "There's a man downstairs. Says he's the girl's father. He's demanding to speak with you. Wants to take her." Rachel froze. Lily dropped the music box, her face drained of color. "It's him," she whispered. "He found me." Rachel's blood turned to ice as the words echoed through the intercom. She looked at Lily, whose small frame was trembling, the music box still spinning its lullaby on the coffee table like a ghost clinging to calm. "He's not taking you," Rachel said, her voice sharp and full of fire. She snatched the landline and dialed a number she had memorized months ago. "Dr. Allen, it's Rachel. He's here. Edward Carter is downstairs. He's demanding to take Lily." There was a pause on the other end, then the calm, steely voice of her attorney. "Don't let him in. We're on our way. Do not engage." Rachel hung up, her chest heaving, and turned to Lily, who now held the music box like a shield. "He's not going to hurt you. Not while I'm breathing." The intercom buzzed again, more insistent. "Ma'am, should I call security? He's becoming aggressive." Rachel pressed the button with trembling fingers. "Tell him he has 5 minutes to leave, or the police will be called for trespassing and harassment." She turned to Lily, kneeling before her, gripping her small, cold hands. "Sweetheart, do you remember anything, anything at all, that your mom might have told you? Something important? Somewhere she might have hidden something?" Lily blinked rapidly, her mind spinning. She said, "If anything happened, the secret would be where you two used to hide things when you were kids. A secret place only you would know." Rachel's breath caught. Of course. Their old college apartment, behind the outlet in Caroline's bedroom, where they used to stash emergency cash and silly love letters. "She didn't sell the entire apartment complex," Rachel murmured, already grabbing her keys. "She said she left something for you there." The intercom buzzed again. "Ma'am, he's refusing to leave." But before Rachel could reply, a different voice crackled through, steady, confident. "This is Dr. Henry Allen. I'm upstairs." Moments later, the front door opened and in walked Henry, followed by a composed, middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a heavy file tucked under her arm. "This is Dr. Patricia Moore," he said, "child welfare specialist. She's here to help." Rachel quickly filled them in, and together they reviewed the stolen documents, the forged will, the missing funds. "We have enough to bury him," Henry said, "but he won't go quietly." From the window, they could see Edward pacing outside, barking into his phone, rage simmering beneath his perfectly ironed shirt. "He'll come at you with everything. Lawyers, media, lies," Patricia warned. "He's already spinning a narrative that you kidnapped her." "Let him try," Rachel snapped. "I have the truth." But she knew it wouldn't be that simple. Men like Edward didn't just walk away from power or money. And Lily, brave as she was, had already been through too much. That night, Lily clung to Rachel as they sat by the fireplace, the flickering light catching in her eyes. "If he takes me again," her voice was no more than a breath. Rachel shook her head, tears burning. "He won't. I promise." But just as she tightened her hold on the girl who had become her world, the intercom rang again, and this time it was worse. "Miss Morgan, the court has issued a temporary injunction. Edward Carter's attorneys are contesting the will. Lily must be surrendered to child services in the morning until the matter is resolved." Rachel dropped the phone. Lily's face crumpled. "They're taking me?" Rachel pulled her close. "It's not forever. I'll fix this. I'll bring you home." But even as the words left her mouth, they felt fragile. The next morning, a woman in a gray pantsuit arrived with a soft voice and cold hands. "Lily will be placed with the Campbells. Good people. Temporary arrangement." Lily stood in the center of the living room, wearing the navy dress from court, her backpack slung over one shoulder, the music box clutched tight in her hands. "Promise you'll find me?" she whispered. Rachel knelt, her eyes red and raw. "I swear to you, no matter how long it takes." As the door closed behind them, Rachel stood frozen, alone in the quiet that now felt like a scream. Lily was gone. But Rachel Morgan had not come this far to lose her now. 2 hours after Lily was taken, Rachel sat in Dr. Henry Allen's office, papers scattered across the desk like shrapnel from a war that had just begun. Her eyes were hollow, but her voice was razor sharp. "They won't get away with this." Henry leaned forward, expression grim. "We've obtained the forensic reports Edward submitted. No actual evidence of forgery, just technicalities he's using to delay the process." "How long?" Rachel demanded. "At least 6 weeks. Maybe longer. And Rachel, you've already spent over $300,000. "I don't care," she snapped. "Lily is worth everything." Henry hesitated, then spoke slowly. "But if you lose the company, the court could say you lack the financial stability to raise her." That sentence hit her like a blow. It was a trap. Fight for Lily and lose everything that could help her keep Lily. That night, when she returned home, the silence was unbearable. The penthouse, once a sanctuary, now felt like a mausoleum. Lily's absence hung in the air like smoke from an invisible fire. But Rachel wasn't alone for long. Her phone rang. "Rachel, it's Thomas Blake," said the voice of one of her former clients. "I need to talk to you, in person. It's about Edward Carter." They met in a dim cafe off the main boulevard. Thomas looked nervous, glancing over his shoulder like a man being hunted. "Edward approached me weeks ago," he began. "Offered deep discounts from his company if I canceled my contract with yours." Rachel's jaw clenched. "He's sabotaging me professionally." "It's worse," Thomas said. "He showed me pictures of Lily at school, in the park, coming out of your building, zoomed, high resolution, telephoto lens." Rachel's stomach turned. "He's stalking her." He said he was documenting her well-being. But Rachel's weren't the pictures of a concerned father. They were disturbing. He's watching her, waiting. Rachel's blood went cold. She stood up, heart pounding. This is what we needed. Proof. Hours later, she and Henry were in the police station, filing a formal complaint. Thomas, to his credit, agreed to testify. "With this," Henry said, "we can file for an emergency protective order and challenge the injunction." But when they arrived at the Campbell residence later that night to alert them and check on Lily's safety, they were met with a nightmare. Mrs. Campbell, pale and frantic, opened the door. "She's not here," she whispered. "We called the school this morning to report her fever, but they said someone had already called, someone claiming to be a relative, and then a man showed up with ID. He took her." Rachel's world shattered. "What do you mean someone took her?" she cried. "He had fake documents. The school believed him." The horror set in. Edward had kidnapped Lily, and this time he had vanished. Chaos erupted in the precinct. Phones rang. Descriptions were shouted. Detective Charles Miller, a seasoned officer, was called in to lead the case. "How long has she been gone?" 8 hours, Rachel choked. 8 hours with him. "We need to move fast," Miller said, already scanning maps. Henry joined in. "He has a sister in Florida, business ties in smaller towns. He's smart, he planned this." Moments later, a lead came through. Edward's car had been found abandoned at a gas station an hour south, surveillance showing him transferring Lily into a white van with no plates. "He's changing vehicles," the detective growled. "He's trying to disappear." Then came the miracle. A call from a payphone in a rural town called Silver Ridge. A young voice. "My name is Lily. A bad man took me. I'm scared." The line went dead. The address was traced to a phone booth beside a closed church. Rachel was already in the squad car when Detective Miller caught up. "You can't come." "I'm not asking," she snapped. "I'm coming." 2 hours later, a caravan of police cars entered Silver Ridge under cover of darkness. Rachel's hands were clenched so tightly her nails drew blood. Then they heard it. Faint, distant, ghostly. The music box, the melody, the same one Lily had clung to for years. They followed it through an overgrown field behind the church, down a narrow path to an abandoned shack hidden in trees. The music grew louder. "Surround the building," Miller commanded. Rachel's heart beat like a war drum. Then a voice from inside, Edward's. "Don't come in. She's mine." "She's not a possession," Rachel shouted. "She's a child." Silence. Then Lily's voice, soft and breaking. "Rachel." "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here." Moments later, the door creaked open. Edward stood there, disheveled, eyes wild, arms limp, and behind him Lily, small, pale, holding the music box like a lifeline. When she saw Rachel, she ran like her life depended on it. And maybe it did. "I knew you'd find me," she sobbed into Rachel's chest. Rachel held her tight, whispering, "Always, always." Behind them, Edward Carter was handcuffed, screaming his final empty threats, but Lily didn't even look back. The drive back to the city felt like exhaling after holding breath for days. In the back seat of the squad car, Lily curled up in Rachel's arms, her small body trembling with exhaustion, but finally unmistakably safe. Rachel stroked her hair, whispering soft promises into the girl's ear as the flashing lights of police escorts painted streaks across the night. When they reached the city limits, however, a new storm awaited. Reporters swarmed the front of Rachel's building like vultures scenting blood, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward, voices yelling questions laced with venom and spin. "Ms. Morgan, did you really kidnap the child? Is it true you manipulated the court?" Rachel's grip on Lily tightened as the girl buried her face into her shoulder, flinching from the chaos. "We're going through the garage," Detective Miller growled, guiding them through a secured side entrance. Inside the penthouse, Lily was quiet. Too quiet. The walls felt haunted now, haunted by what almost happened, by how close Rachel had come to losing her. That night, Rachel barely slept, too afraid to take her eyes off Lily's sleeping face. But the battle wasn't over. It was merely the eye of the storm. The next morning, Henry arrived with urgent news. "Edward's lawyers are filing for a retrial. They're claiming you faked the will. They're calling the rescue a setup." Rachel laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "They're calling a kidnapping a setup?" Henry looked grave. "He still has powerful allies, and now the media is poisoned against you. We're going to fight this, but we need ironclad evidence." As if summoned by the tension, the phone rang. It was Marina Blake, the social worker who had helped build Lily's original case. "I have something," she said. "Documents, testimony, surveillance footage from years ago. Enough to destroy him in court if you're still willing to go all the way." "I'm not just willing," Rachel answered. "I'm ready." But ready or not, the days that followed were brutal. Edward's team attacked Rachel's character, her company, her sanity. They leaked private messages, questioned her intentions, labeled her a desperate woman looking for a child to fill some emotional void. Meanwhile, Lily returned to school, her smile slow to return, her trust even slower. She had nightmares. She flinched at loud noises. But every time Rachel held her, she clung tighter, as if she knew. This time, no one was letting go. Then came the day of reckoning. The courtroom was cold, sterile, but thick with tension. Edward Carter, smug in his tailored suit, sat with his new lawyer, younger, crueler. Rachel held Lily's hand as she walked her to the witness stand once more. But this time, Lily didn't tremble. "He hurt my mom," she said simply. "He scared me. He put me in places where kids cried all night, places where bad men came." Her voice didn't crack. She told her story like someone much older, her truth unshakable. Marina testified next, presenting damning records. Forged custody files, bribes, secret payments to illegal foster homes, surveillance footage of Edward stalking Lily. And then, finally, came the will. The original, authenticated, sealed. Caroline's handwriting in every line, naming Rachel as Lily's legal guardian. The judge didn't even blink. "Edward Carter," he said, his tone like a gavel striking bone, You are hereby stripped of all paternal rights. You are ordered to serve 15 years for child endangerment, kidnapping, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Edward shouted as they cuffed him, spitting threats no one cared to hear. But Lily didn't flinch. She turned her face into Rachel's side and whispered, "He can't touch us anymore." Rachel bent to kiss her forehead. Never again. Outside, the sky was blue. Not just any blue, the kind that looks like a beginning. That evening, they packed boxes in silence. Not of luxury clothes or glass sculptures, but of memories, toys, books, a battered music box still playing its hopeful tune. They were moving. Rachel sold the penthouse, the last relic of her old life, and bought a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. For the first time in years, she breathed without pressure. Lily ran through the backyard barefoot, laughing with their newly adopted dog, and that sound was everything. At dinner over simple pasta and lemonade, Lily looked up from her plate. "Do you regret meeting me that day?" Rachel nearly dropped her fork. "What?" "At the restaurant," Lily said. "You lost your company, your big life, your fancy things." Rachel reached across the table, taking her hand. "Lily Carter, before you, I had everything that didn't matter. Now I have everything that does." The girl smiled, a small, sun-warmed smile that could light 1,000 dark nights. "Even when I broke your favorite vase?" "Especially then." They laughed, and for once, it wasn't just to cover pain. It was real, whole, healing. Later that night, as Rachel tucked her in, Lily murmured sleepily, "Can you teach me the cookie recipe your mom taught you?" Rachel smiled, brushing hair from her eyes. "I'll teach you everything, sweetheart. Everything I know. Everything your mom would have wanted you to know." And under the quiet hum of a new home, a new life began. Not perfect, but theirs. 1 year later, the once silent house Rachel bought on the edge of the suburbs had transformed into something far greater than a home. It had become a sanctuary. No longer just a shelter for two souls bound by fate, it now pulsed with the sounds of laughter, midnight whispers, the creak of bunk beds, and the occasional crash of a toy tumbling down the stairs. Rachel's modest home was now a revolving door for children in crisis. Some stayed for days, others for months, but all left with something they hadn't arrived with: hope. Lily, now 10, had grown taller, her eyes still carrying shadows, but her steps lighter, steadier. She had become the unofficial big sister of the house, moving with a maturity far beyond her years, comforting the younger ones during thunderstorms, teaching them how to share crayons or fold their blankets just right. Rachel watched her with awe, the way she held a toddler's hand like it was the most important task in the world, or how she offered her beloved music box to a sobbing child who couldn't sleep. One evening, as they finished washing dishes, Lily turned to Rachel, her hands still wet and soapy. "You know, when I used to sleep outside, I'd dream about this place. Not the walls or the beds or even the food. Just the feeling. The feeling that someone was waiting for me to come home." Rachel dried her hands, silent. "I want to help more kids feel that too," Lily continued. "The ones who are still dreaming of being safe." So Rachel made it official. With Henry's help, they registered as a certified foster care support home. The news spread fast among social workers, and soon Rachel's door became one of the most trusted in the system. There was no luxury, no extravagance, just warmth and structure, and a woman who had lost everything and built something stronger from the ashes. And a girl who once asked to eat someone's leftovers now led bedtime stories like a general leading an army of the small and forgotten. One stormy night, a 6-year-old named Isabella arrived, shaking, mute from the trauma she'd endured. Rachel and Lily welcomed her with dry clothes and quiet space, but the nightmares came anyway. 3 nights in a row, Isabella woke screaming, her eyes glassy with fear. On the 4th, Lily entered the room without a word, placed her music box beside Isabella's pillow, and whispered, "This helped me once. It still does." The melody played, delicate and trembling, and Rachel, standing silently in the doorway, felt her throat tighten. In the morning, Isabella smiled for the first time. She clutched the music box like it was a talisman and whispered to Rachel, "Lily said you'll help me find my new family." "I will, sweetheart," Rachel replied, voice catching. "One that will love you like we do." Time passed, and the house filled with names and stories. Some left with tears and drawings for Lily. Some sent postcards months later. But they all carried something with them. The invisible threads of belonging, sewn quietly through gentle meals, whispered goodnights, and a girl who understood exactly what it meant to be lost and found again. 5 years later, the sun rose over a building that didn't exist in any blueprint back when Lily first walked into Rachel's life. It was called the Lily Carter Center, and it stood proudly on a tree-lined avenue with a garden that exploded with sunflowers and wind chimes that sang in the breeze. A plaque at the entrance read, "In memory of Caroline Carter, and in honor of every child who needs a second chance." Children played on the front lawn, some laughing, some still learning how to, but all of them safe. Rachel stood on the front steps in a navy blazer, her hair pinned back, watching the scene with quiet pride. Beside her was Lily, now 17, tall and graceful, her presence radiating confidence and compassion like a beacon. She was no longer the trembling child begging for scraps. She was the heart of the center, a leader, a mentor, and a living symbol of what love could rebuild. Inside, the building buzzed with purpose. Classrooms filled with volunteer tutors. Therapy rooms painted in soft colors where children whispered fears they had never spoken aloud. And kitchens that smelled like warm cinnamon and comfort. What began as one woman's promise had become a movement. One afternoon, as Rachel observed Lily teaching a group of younger kids how to plant herbs in the community garden, her phone rang. It was Thomas Blake, the businessman who had once helped her expose Edward. "Rachel," he said, "I know you don't accept donations, but I have a different offer. I want to fund an expansion, a full-scale campus, psychologists, art therapists, educators, a place where no child just survives, but thrives." Rachel was silent for a long moment, her eyes fixed on Lily, who had just tied a red ribbon around a little girl's ponytail and kissed her forehead. "Why?" she finally asked. "Because years ago, I watched a woman give up everything to save one child," Thomas said. "And that child changed everything she touched. I want to be part of that ripple." That evening, Rachel sat with Lily under the stars. "They want to expand," she said. "A real center, a full facility. It'll be a lot more responsibility. Less time for just us." Lily leaned against her shoulder, thoughtful. "You know what I've learned most since we met?" "What's that?" Rachel whispered. "That love doesn't shrink when you share it. It grows. The more kids we help, the more we have to give." Rachel turned to her, tears brimming. "So we say yes?" Lily nodded, her eyes shining. "We say yes." And so they did. The following spring, the new campus opened with a ceremony that drew reporters, former foster families, and dozens of children whose lives had been rewritten under Rachel's roof. As Lily cut the ribbon, Rachel whispered, "Do you know what makes me most proud?" Lily glanced over, curious. "That you remembered your name the day you asked for my leftovers." Lily laughed. "Why?" "Because even when you had nothing," Rachel said, voice thick, "you never forgot who you were or what you deserved. That kind of strength can't be taught." As the sun set behind the center bearing her name, Lily wrapped her arms around Rachel. "Thank you," she murmured. "For what?" "For putting down your fork that day and handing me your whole life instead." Rachel held her tight, knowing without a doubt that sometimes the greatest stories begin with the smallest, bravest question. "Can I have your leftovers?"